This is the basis of light and shadow as well as simple form. It's something you got to know. It's something you're going to use all the time. It's not my theory, but this is Leonardo da Vinci's theory that to ideally show form, it should be 2/3 light, 1/3 shadow, with the light positioned so that it's coming from, if you're right-handed, the upper left. So here's the light coming in from the upper left, and here is going to be your sphere. I say sphere in this case and not circle because what you have to think is dimensionally. A circle's flat, it's a shape, and right now this basically could be called just a shape, but what you really want to think is that it's something that's round, that it has, if it was a globe, this would be like the longitude and latitude. Okay, what happens is the first thing you do is you divide the form into light and shadow. You want 2/3 light, 1/3 shadow. Because the light's coming this way, at this kind of an angle, whatever surface this is resting on is going to cast a shadow as well. And that would correspond to the direction of the light. When you first think of light and shadow, you take your shadows and you think of them as one and the same, meaning the cast shadow and the shadow area in general at first are seen as one, same value. So try to keep your strokes without a lot of strokes in them. Keep them very, in fact you can do this if you want to smooth them out. Okay, now you got to separate the main shadow area from the cast shadow. Remember, the cast shadow is what's lying, say this ball is on a table, so the cast shadow starts at its source with a very hard dark edge, and as it moves away from what's ever causing the shadow to happen, it becomes diffuse. So again, darkest right under the form, hardest edge right here, back here this is a diffused edge, soft. Okay, the shadow itself has two main elements to it. The true shadow, which is in the center, and something called the reflected light in shadow. Reflected light in shadow happens when light hits the surface that the form is resting on. In this case, the ball is resting on a table, and bounces light back into the shadow. The reflected light is never as light as anything in the light. It's part of the shadow group. You have to think of it as part of the shadow group so that it doesn't get confused with the light area. Now, we're drawing on white paper, so basically the white paper is going to serve as the general light area. But between light and shadow, or if you think of it as like night and day, there's twilight. And twilight is called the halftone. This only happens on rounded objects.